And to start mapping, on our left-hand menu, we'll come to the Tools section, and then towards the bottom, Map to SCOA. And in the top left-hand corner is where we'll toggle between the single and bulk methods. We'll do some bulk mapping first, and it's really useful to do bulk mapping if it's your first time mapping, if you've just made some large changes to your standard chart of accounts, or if you've just recently had a lot of locations sync for the first time. You can get a whole bunch of mapping knocked out at once. So once you have this bulk button highlighted, we'll come over here to this first drop down, and we'll choose the first account type that we'd like to start mapping to. So in my case, I'm going to choose expense. I know I have a lot of expense accounts unmapped. And once you choose an account type here, you'll see a lot of your account names from your accounting software populate down here below. So these are all of the expense accounts from all files that you have access to that could be mapped within the expense section. And then you will come over here to the second drop down, and here will be all of your accounts that are in the expense section in your Qvinci standard chart of accounts. So first you'll choose which account for this list you want to map to. And I'm going to choose rent expense. I know I have every file has rent expense in there somewhere, so I'm going to choose this one first. So now I need to come down and choose which accounts need to be mapped to rent expense. These clearly are rent, but I don't want to scroll through pages and pages of these accounts. I want to find just the ones that need to go to rent. And so the best way to do that is to click on these column settings here marked with the three little circles. So these allow you to either sort or filter the contents of your account names. I find it most helpful to filter by the native account name here. If you have certain account numbers that carry over from QuickBooks, you may want to use that column instead. The settings are the same for each column. So you can either sort ascending, sort descending. I'm going to use some filtering options here. So we'll say, I know the account names, many of them contain the word rent, for example. So I'll choose contains there, type in rent here. But let's say I also know that some of my bookkeepers also call the account lease. Well, I could look for both rent and lease at the same time. So from here I'll say we want all accounts that contain rent or contain lease. And now we have every expense account that has either the word rent or lease in it. So these are all accounts that I would like to map to rent up here. So we'll come over here under the Map to New Standard Account, and I'd just like to point out the Select All button here. This will actually select every expense account, so not necessarily just the ones that we have showing here. So you may not want to choose this button right here. I would recommend instead just individually checking these boxes here on the right. And then once you have all of those checked, you'll hit Save Mappings here in the top right-hand corner. And then you would just go on to your next account. So let's say, I know I have a lot of depreciation expense. You can come there. And you'll note that my filter settings are still intact. So obviously I don't want to map any of these rent accounts to depreciation expense. So to clear this, I'll click here. I have this filter highlighted here. So we'll come under filter and then we'll clear our filter settings. So this will bring me back to all of my expense accounts again. I'll see my rent ones already here. So I'll just do another filter, contains. We'll do DAP short for depreciation. Oh, and look, I can see I have 4 different accounts that need to come here. Also, I'll select them all here on the right-hand side, and I'll hit Save Mappings. And you'll just repeat this for any of these categories where you know you have a lot of unmapped accounts. And get them all mapped, knocked out at once. So we've just done some bulk mapping, and you may have used that method to get the majority of your accounts mapped somewhere to your standard. But more than likely, you're not going to be able to map every single account that way. One office will always have some straggling account that's not in your standard, or perhaps you searched for janitorial and they call it cleaning, or perhaps they have some typos in their account names. So you'll usually have some straggler accounts, and it's pretty easy to catch them and get them mapped to the correct place using the single mapping method. So you'll just make sure single is selected here in the top left-hand corner. And in this mode, you'll see every single account from your accounting files here. So you'll see we still have these column settings here for each column. And what I find is the easiest way to find all of your unmapped accounts first is to come to the standard account type column and just sort as ascending, and all of your unmapped accounts will show up first. So we'll see, the ones that we already mapped down here at the bottom. Well, we don't need to map those right now. We'll focus on all the unmapped that are here at the top. So we'll just go line by line, as the name implies, a single account at a time. So we'll see here's the native account name in QuickBooks, professional fees, legal, it's an expense account type. Well, where in our standard chart of accounts should that go? So you'll click here, all of the expense accounts will pop up here, and you'll just scroll through, where should professional fees go? Probably professional fees. And you'll just repeat this process for each one. So you have engine sales, all of our cogs will pull up here, and we'll just come down the line and do the same thing for each one. And the important thing is here is after you've made these changes, so this does not automatically save as soon as you make your selection, you'll have to click Save Mappings up here in the top right. So just make sure you do that before you navigate away to another page, else you'll lose all your work. And you'll see, since I still have this filter setting, sort ascending, since I mapped those, they have moved down towards the bottom. So I won't see those at the top. I can come through and just work on the ones that are unmapped here. And you'll get all of your stragglers knocked out, and you'll be good to go. Now we'll take a look at the classic mapping view. Again, we'll go to Tools, Map to SCOA, and from the Quick Mapping page, we'll click the Classic Mapping button here in the top right. And the reason I say you may like this view if you're visual is because on the left-hand side, you'll actually get to see all of the accounts that make up the standard chart of accounts. And we'll look at one account type at a time, and it's whatever account type is highlighted in this drop-down. So right now we're looking at all of the income accounts. You could also take a look at expense, wherever you're needing to map, but you'll look at one account type here at a time in classic mapping. So you'll always see all of these standard account types here on the left, and on the right side you'll see all of the account names from your accounting files. And by default, we'll only see the accounts that are unmapped. So usually when you come here, you'll be mapping things that appear in the unmapped section of your report. But if you know that something is mapped in the wrong spot, you can always come over here to All Accounts, and this will show you all of the accounts, in this case for income, whether they're mapped or not, and you can always remap something here, but you'll probably spend most of your time looking at the unmapped accounts. So basically we'll be taking a look at all of these unmapped accounts, and we want to find somewhere in the standard for these accounts to go. So let's take a look. We have a lot of accounts with the same name here. Parent account is miscellaneous parts income. Then we have a child account, Sparkle Racing Seat income. So let's take a look at the standard and see where this might go. It looks like we have a miscellaneous parts income here. So when you're mapping, you'll always want to make sure the account you want to map to is highlighted here in green on your standard chart of accounts section. And then you'll come over here on the right and we'll check the box next to any account that should be mapped to miscellaneous parts income. So in some cases it may be just one account. In this case, it may be a lot. You can check as many as you need and map them all at once by hitting this green Map Selection button. And we do also have a search option here, and this is not as robust as the search options for quick mapping. So this is only a starts with search. It is not a contains search. So let's say we were trying to find all of the accounts named Sparko Racing Seat Income. So you would not be able to find them by doing a search for the word income, because this does not do a search for anything that contains income. It's looking for anything that begins with the word income. So if we wanted to pull up all those accounts at once, we need to search for the word Sparko because that's at the beginning of the account name. And then you'd be able to come through, check all of these, and map them all at once. And that's classic mapping. And one last thing I'd like to discuss is the standard chart of accounts mapping report. So let's say you've been running some reports and some of your numbers seem off and you're wondering if perhaps some of your accounts have been mismapped to the wrong section. So you can come through here and we can see where each individual account has been mapped. But it may be rather tedious if you have lots of accounts to sort of come through here and see line by line where things are. It may be easier to perhaps look at an Excel sheet of all your accounts and see where those are mapped. And we do have an option within Qvinci where you can do that. So first we'll come back to our trusty left-hand menu. Under the Manage section this time, we'll go to Client if you're an accounting firm, or Company if you're in the franchise space. And on this page, we'll scroll down until we get to the SCOA section right here. And towards the bottom there is the blue Export Account Mapping button. So we'll click here. This will export a list of all your accounts within Qvinci to Excel and where they are mapped to your standard within Qvinci. And then you can sort of use Excel's filtering to view the accounts you need, see if anything is in the wrong place, and then you're able to go back to Qvinci and correct the mapping there. A little bit easier than going through line by line here in Qvinci. And you are now a mapping expert. Congratulations.